Hello, hello. Welcome back. We are here on a Thursday night. A little earlier than most nights, but nonetheless, story time. And we are at present ready for Chapter 6, The Power of Positive Parking. And where we last left the crew, they were paying a fine at City Hall because the police thought they were a real ambulance. And and now they're even more broke than they were before. So, Chapter 6, The Power of Positive Parking. Bound for Interstate 65 after leaving Columbus, Dennis somehow ended up on Rural Road number 11 instead. The two-lane cow path wound through pleasant rural country and past prosperous farms, but clearly did not lead to Chicago. So Dennis called upon his keen native sense of direction, which led them down several dirt roads, each becoming increasingly inhospitable. The final one abruptly ended at the steep face of a gorge. This particular gorge being very beautiful, Kevin set up his tripod and began to snap nature studies, while Sam, Nick, Howie, and Sheldon experimented with the group yell over the echoing cliffs. Backtracking, they asked directions of a farmer. He could not locate the highway precisely, but wouldn't they like to see a fine field of alfalfa? Pointing out that Pete Ogrodnik had minored in agriculture at university, Sheldon accepted on behalf of the group. The field was duly admired, and the search continued. Then a thunderstorm broke, rendering the dirt roads almost impassable. By 10 o'clock at night, ambulance group, with Rob at the wheel, had reached Chicago. Dennis was buried in the enormous city map, calling out street names and directions, and the boys were all asleep. "Late again," said Rob in disgust. "When Butcher sees our check-in time, he's going to come after us with a knife. Just another little something to add to our legend." There was a rustling in the back, and Nick's head appeared between the two counselors. "It's after 10. Are we there yet?" "Almost," said Rob. "Dennis got us pretty lost back there. And with that and a bit of bad luck," the word luck was out of his mouth before he realized his mistake. "Well," said Nick immediately, "I really think you guys have been pretty careless lately, what with parking in spot 14 and all that." Dennis put down the map. "Look, Nick, I can see how rubbing a rabbit's foot doesn't do anybody any harm, but you can't live your whole life on superstition. I mean, it was funny the first few times, but now I think we should all forget about this luck business." Nick was silent as Rob checked into the camp and began to cruise the rows looking for a parking space. Finally, the boy could bear it no longer. "Watch where you park." Rob slammed on the brakes and the van jolted to a halt. "That's it! I can't take it anymore. If you want to blame everything that's gone wrong for us on unlucky parking spaces, then let's see you do better. From now on, we're going to let you make the luck. So sacrifice a goat, read the entrails, and tell me where to park. The helm is yours." "Wow, that's great, Rob," said Nick, quite pleased. "Hurry up," Rob urged. "We await your decision." "I've got a good feeling about 35, said Nick. 35 it is. Prepare for sunshine and roses." The next morning, when ambulance group awoke, Rob was on top of the situation. "All right, nobody move. We've got to do this right. Nick, we're getting up. Any suggestions on how we can do it luckily?" "Well, no, Rob, it doesn't work that way," replied Nick seriously. "There are no luck rules for something simple like getting out of bed." "Well, I'll tell you what then. Since we're not experts, we'll follow exactly what you do. Okay? Nick, go ahead." There was much laughing and joking among the boys as they all tried to copy Nick's every movement in the morning routine. Rob peppered the exercise with sarcastic refereeing. "Come on, Howie. Nick put his pants on left leg first." Any special teeth we should brush? Any special teeth we should brush first, Nick? Molars, incisors? Is it lucky to eat cornflakes when you're parked in spot 35, Nick? No, Sheldon mustn't mention Pete Ogrodnik unless Nick mentions him first. Oh, Rob, exclaimed Nick. This isn't right. You're not taking it seriously. You guys can't spend the whole day doing what I do. Good luck is just taking into account certain things. From his bedroll, he produced a large, well-thumbed paperback book. Like biorhythms, okay? Everybody tell me your birthday, and I'll check it out. A swift examination of everyone's biorhythm chart left Nick staring at his book in amazement. I can't believe it. Do you have any idea how good today is? How good? Asked Rob skeptically. I mean, I've seen high ratings before, but never for 8 people. I'd better chart it again. It can't be right. He took another look at the book and then shook his head. I wasn't wrong. We could do anything today. We could drive the ambulance right up the slopes of Mount Everest. The group voted to go into the city instead, and, as Dennis put it, coast on the momentum of our great biorhythms. Artie was the only abstainer, saying, I'm sure you guys will decide on something interesting. Come on, Artie, urged Dennis. You're a living, breathing human being. Surely there's something you want to do. Speak up. Artie just shrugged. Not really. Just in case you're getting any ideas, Artie, added Rob, you'd better know that the very first rule of luck is that people who take off from groups with high biorhythms get run over by cement trucks. Dennis sidled over to Rob. Nevin, that kid is starting to worry me, he whispered. He's got no personality. Doesn't care where we go, what we do. Let's concentrate on bringing him out today. You can worry about bringing him out, Rob whispered. I'll put my efforts into keeping him. Nick was still staring at his book. I can't believe it. What incredible luck. The incredible luck began at a large indoor shopping complex, where Sheldon lost his balance and tumbled backwards into the decorative fountain. Nick, Sam, Howie, and Kevin collapsed with laughter, and even Dennis and Rob were hard put to hide their amusement as they fished Sheldon out of the drink. I guess old Pete Ogrodnik was right when he said you were uncoordinated, howled Sam, and the group dissolved anew. Dripping wet, Sheldon smiled sheepishly. Well, Nick, grinned Rob, what's the story here? How can this happen with such high biorhythms? Just then, the mall manager hurried up, all concerned. While Dennis escorted the soggy Sheldon back to the van to change into dry clothing, the man apologized profoundly to the others. To think, this could have happened in our mall. What you must think of us. I'm so sorry. And tourists, too. When Sheldon and Dennis returned, the manager took Sheldon to the barber shop to have his hair blown dry, then hustled the whole group into the photographic studio for a complimentary group portrait, frame included. He even said he'd toss in a small brass plate, which was to read Ambulance Group, 2004, and 8 wallet-sized versions of the picture. Then he treated them all to chocolate milk and donuts while the photos were being developed and printed. What great luck, cried Howie, as the group carried its prize back to the van. You were right, Nick. Nick smiled smugly. He was a great photographer, too, said Kevin. A little cranky, but with super results. I hope he didn't mind my advice. Dennis opened the back door of the van and stowed the portrait away lovingly. What did I tell you, guys? Amazing things happen when we pull together as a group. Right, Artie? Right, said Artie, blandly. Where to next? Asked Sam. Well, said Rob, let's check with our luck consultant. Nick, any ideas? North, south, east, west? West sounds good. West it is, said Dennis, jumping in behind the wheel. That'll take us right downtown. Then we can park and do the town on foot. They drove for a while, taking in the sights and glorying in their beautiful portrait and even more beautiful luck. Suddenly Nick sat forward and cried out, Turn right! What? Turn right fast! Do it, cheered Sam, Howie, Kevin, and Sheldon, who were willing to accept Nick's word for anything. With a squeal of tires, Dennis wheeled the van around the corner into a dilapidated, rather ugly street, which stretched out for about 40 yards to an abandoned furniture factory and a dead end. Well, this is a stroke of luck, said Rob. We're nowhere. What was that all about? I saw something run across the road ahead, Nick explained, weak with relief. It might have been a black cat. We couldn't risk having it cross our path. Is that all? Said Dennis. Now it's going to take me half an hour to work my way back out into traffic on the main drag. Why don't we eat lunch here? Said Sam. There's a restaurant. And, hey, look. Just in from the corner stood Patrick's Diner. Underneath the sign was a huge banner which read, 100th Anniversary Celebration. Today only. 1904 prices. Dennis checked his watch and smiled. Far out. We're just in time. Good job, Nick. We're unbeatable today. The customers were being met at the door by Patrick himself, grandson of the original Patrick. Lunch for 8 came to $2.19 with dessert. An ambulance group walked out the door, stuffed to the ears and sporting buttons which read, Patrick's Diner Centenary, 1904 to 2004. Steak, 23 cents. Well, Artie, what do you think of that? Asked Dennis in delight. Very good, said Artie, not specifying whether he was referring to the food, the prices, or the luck that had brought them there. Deciding to leave the ambulance where it was parked, the group embarked on a walking tour of downtown Chicago. The luck of the day seemed to be continuing, for they ran into a man from Tourism, Illinois, who was distributing free passes to the observation deck of the Sears Tower. The group enjoyed the view, though not as much as the ride in the high-speed elevator. Outside, a street artist decided that he simply had to draw a caricature of Artie, whose eyes intrigued him. Sam, acting as agent, refused to surrender Artie unless the rest of the group was drawn as well. A lively negotiation ensued, and a deal was finally struck in which Artie would be drawn free, contingent on the other 7 being offered their pictures at half price. The group was ecstatic. The only calm member was Artie himself, who posed in complacent silence. A while later, while touring a downtown television studio, the group was informed that there was still seating in the studio audience for the weekly comedy show My Mother, the Podiatrist. Overjoyed, they settled themselves in for the free entertainment. Coming out of the show, the group caught sight of an advertisement for a large amusement park just outside of town. They picked up the van and headed for the park, which, in perfect keeping with their spell of good luck, was promoting its newest and greatest attraction, the Super Slide. Highest slide in the world. For a mere penny, one could shoot the treacherous curves and thrilling hills and dips while seated on a burlap mat. The boys were delighted. Rob was nervous. Dennis, we can't let them go up there. It's a mile in the sky. Dennis, who was suffering from heartburn after ramming 3 orders of cotton candy down his throat in rapid succession, sat down heavily. You go with them. I'll stay here with Artie. He says he'd rather sit it out too. So Rob made endless trips up the Super Slide's towering staircase, safeguarding the lives of his charges and shooting down the drop with them, only to have to start up again. By the time the boys had had enough, Rob had had more than enough. As the afternoon progressed, thoughts of dinner began to develop, so the group headed back downtown to search for a restaurant worthy of this magnificent day. Rob was riding in the back of the van, leaving the navigator's seat open for Nick. The parking space that Nick selected turned out to have a broken meter, which would accept no money, and which stood permanently at 23 minutes. Nice little piece of luck, said Sam smugly, coming to accept the good fortune as a matter of course. Okay, Nick, pick a restaurant. Rob reached down and picked up a sheet of paper which the breeze had wafted across the street to his feet. Redeemable for 1 free regular spaghetti dinner with each one purchased. Gino's Real Italian Cuisine, 555 Market Street. He looked at Nick suspiciously. What are you, a witch or something? Gino's slogan was, the best spaghetti anywhere, and the high-flying ambulance group was in complete agreement. They dined in economical splendor, gloating over their consistent luck. No holds were barred in praise of Nick and his biorhythms. Leaving Gino's, the group decided to stay in town for a while longer to walk off supper. They toured casually, mostly window shopping, until the sky began to darken. When they returned to the van, they found a piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper. Oh no, moaned Dennis. We had such a great day, and now it has to be spoiled by a parking ticket? What a drag. Frowning in disgust, he pulled the paper from under the wiper and examined it. Hey, wow, get a load of this. Congratulations! The Greater Chicago Merchants Association is pleased to inform you that as of 8 p.m., your vehicle is parked in one of today's randomly selected lucky spots. To pick up your prize, come to... I can't believe it. We won something. Cheering themselves hoarse, the boys once again piled into the van, and Dennis drove to the designated store. Rob presented the ticket to the woman at the counter, who disappeared into the back of the store for a moment and then came out carrying a small carton. Dennis stared at the writing on the box. A toaster? Wow, breathed Howie. Just what we needed, added Kevin, capturing the magic moment on film. Rob put his head down on the counter and laughed until tears were rolling down his cheeks. Roll 5. Exposure 31. Toaster at work. Come on, guys, coaxed Dennis. No more toast. You should all go to bed. Just one more slice each, wheedled Howie. It's 5 to 12, and we don't want to miss 1 second of our day. I've checked around, said Sam proudly, and we're the only group with a toaster. Not bad, commented Sheldon, starting on his 5th slice. But it's more than just a toaster, Sam continued. Sure, it makes great toast, but more important, we want it together. It belongs to all our group. I admit I had my doubts at first, but it's starting to be pretty obvious that we are the best group on this tour. There was general agreement. All right, guys, said Rob, who had not really stopped laughing since seeing the prize. Go to sleep. Tomorrow's another day. Maybe not a day like this one, but we can't be greedy. We have our toaster. When the boys were bedded down and asleep, Dennis and Rob sat in front of the van reviewing the events of their remarkable day. When you said we should unite this group, chuckled Rob, I thought it couldn't be done. But if you told me that the whole group would rally around a toaster... What a day, breathed Dennis. It almost makes me want to believe in this biorhythm stuff. But if the kids are happy, then I'm happy. Nevin, our troubles are over. A big deal, you've already started making up new ones. Why did you set up a date with Kathy and Susan when you know we're running low on cash? I don't think they'll be very impressed if we take them out for a glass of water. Dennis, how could you be so stupid? How could I resist? They were there, the moon, the stars, the Rhode Island Reds. They really like us, Nevin. Let the Road Hogs have Cindy and Vera. Our Reds make their Blues look like men. But, Dennis, you'll see. Rob came awake in the middle of the night with the strange feeling that something was amiss. He sat up in his bedroll and scanned the floor of the tent. There was one empty sleeping bag. His breath caught in his throat. Artie was gone again. But no. Artie was there, fast asleep. His briefcase clutched to his heart. Rob saw a faint glimmer of light outside the tent and crawled out to investigate. There, sitting cross-legged on the grass, was Sheldon, examining a handful of photographs by flashlight. Hey, Sheldon. What are you doing up? The boy wore a look of deep sadness, and his voice was melancholy. He pointed to the picture on the top of the pile. This is Pete and me building a snow fort a couple of winters ago, and here we are playing miniature golf in Vermont. Here's Pete with his dog Hamlet. He sighed. I just couldn't believe he'd go away. Guess you miss him a lot, said Rob sympathetically. He squinted at the pictures in the dim light. Pete Ogrodnik was just a normal person, and yes, even a little on the fat side. It was almost comforting. Here we are at an Expos game, Sheldon went on sadly. We used to go a lot, and we'd always root for the Expos. Gee, I really miss Pete. You know, Sheldon, said Rob, choosing his words as carefully as possible, Pete sounds like the greatest friend a guy could ever have. But you've got to understand that friends can't always be together. You have to go on living. Didn't you have a good time today? Sheldon looked greatly troubled. Today was the first day since Pete left that I hardly thought about him at all. I had so much fun. I'm really happy, but at the same time, I'm really sad because Pete's gone. I think it's great that I'm a member of ambulance group, and I like all the guys, and you and Dennis, and things are going so well. What with the toaster and all? But I feel funny that when I get home from this trip, Pete won't be there. I think, said Rob kindly, that Pete would be the happiest guy in the world to know that you're fitting in so well and having a good time. And when you see him again, he'll be very proud of the kind of person you've become. Sheldon turned earnest eyes to his counselor. Really? Really, said Rob, feeling for the first time the weight of his 18 years. Here was Sheldon, the pesky kid who never shut up, turning to him in his time of trouble. And he, Rob Nevin, was honestly coming up with worthwhile advice. It was astounding. With effort, he might even become as wise as, dare he say it, Pete Ogrodnik. In the meantime, you shouldn't feel guilty about letting yourself go with your new friends. I mean, this tour is a really good thing. Enjoy it. Be the ambulance. Make toast. Sheldon brightened. I think I understand. Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Anytime. Now you should go back to sleep. Okay. Would you like to have a look at the rest of my photos? Sure, said Rob, wanting anything but. Tomorrow, in daylight. I want to see them properly. He sat there a few minutes to allow Sheldon to get back into his bedroll and fall asleep. Well, he thought, that was an experience. One he never would have had painting houses in Montreal, though indisputably had he taken the painting job, he wouldn't be sitting in Chicago keeping a wary eye on Artie and an even warier one on Dennis, the last of the big-time spenders. And that is the end of chapter 6. Well, I am pretty excited about the upcoming chapter. If I remember correctly, and keep in mind it's been probably 20 years since I read this book. Correct, more than that, maybe 25. The next chapter is pretty wild. So, we'll be back next week for chapter 7, No Frills. In the meantime, as usual, about that time to get some sleep. Good night.